There'll be questions they're going to ask that they're just not in there. So there might be some procedural things, like what is the procedure? Well, that's something else. I think that's just writing the stuff.
PST process.
Procedural stuff.
I don't want to say like the PST process if you put it in there and it's not what I say.
Well, we're going to follow this guidelines. So, however, they're caveats,
Cindy back there.
They just didn't seem to have the answer
for part of it, yeah.
You know, they were a little vague on a lot of it.
I know. A little pie in the sky.
John Nelson, he found a couple things in there in the school application.
Additional people to the process. You can just have them slide in here.
Yeah, we'll move in.
So we want to make sure that it's easy to hear
Okay.
the person. Okay?
We're going to have a couple people that will have to come in for short sections.
Right.
gave you one that had the S.
Good morning, everyone. If you could please take your seats, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kelly Amy, and I'm the Manager of Strategic Partnerships for the district, and I'll be facilitating our capacity interview this morning with Southeast Volusia School of Science and Technology. I would like to remind everyone that we are live streaming this morning, so we ask if there are any additional speakers that they come up to the mic so that we may hear them appropriately. We do have more than 40 district staff members here who have reviewed the Southeast Volusia application, and they will be coming forward with specific clarifying questions that they have about sections in their expertise. So they will come forward, ask their questions, and we'll move through sections 1 through 22 and as quick as we possibly can with getting that clarifying information. You'll see up on the slide that our next steps are listed there. After we are through the capacity interviews, our district reviewers will take their notes and do one last bit of evaluation before they head to the Florida Department of Education charter school evaluation instrument. That is a standardized instrument. And then they will submit their final evaluations to our superintendent, Mr. Russell, for his review prior to going to the school board on April 9th, where the school board members will have an opportunity to ask their questions and make a final vote. That is all happening within the mandated time frame of 90 days as dictated by statute. So that is our process that we are currently working through. Certainly we are happy to have our applicants here with us today and welcome their input as we move forward with this evaluation process. I'd like to go ahead and just jump right in. We are dealing with a 2-hour time frame. We seem to hold to that quite well with our first application, so I'm hopeful we'll have that same good luck as we move forward, but it is our charge to make sure that all questions are answered. So if we do go over that time frame, we're certainly fine with that. We want to make sure we get all the information we can. Are there any questions from the applicants before we get started? Okay, if you would, please introduce yourselves.
First of all, I'd like to introduce the board members. My name is John Massey. I'm the president, chairman of the board of Southeast Volusia School of Science and Technology. We have Oscar Zeller. He's the vice president. Sarah Daugherty is unable to be with us today, and she is our secretary treasurer. We have Bob Andrikovic and Jeff Landers, who is not able to be here today. We also have Mr. Taylor Smith. He's helping us with his facilities development. John Nelson, he is the attorney for the board. Yeah. There he is, back there somewhere. And then I'd like to, Ken Bossy with Haskell. They're design build contractors out of Jacksonville. And then I'm going to go ahead at this point and have Dr. Jan McGee introduce her team that's put this application together and the administration.
Okay, I am Dr. Jan McGee and the principal currently at Burns Science and Technology Charter School, and to my right is Mr. Dan Hargrave, and he is our assistant principal right now currently at the high school, who has helped write the charter as far as where the curriculum piece is mainly. I also have with me Burns Sci Tech board members. I have our chairperson, Bob Deemers. And I have Brent Appy, who is our treasurer. Is there anybody We have quite a few parents here also, so I did want to recognize them for being supportive. I do have my IT person, Lee Fox, if there were any questions. And we also brought a middle school teacher, Angela Lee, who was our language arts teacher who reviewed and helped us write several of the sections. I have our parent support person, Dana Graytrucks. So she is that paid position for Burnside Tech. The ESE director from my school, Tina Duncan. And an ESE teacher who also does ESOL, Sean Campbell. And then I have my administrative assistant, Judy Bordeaux. So I think, anything I didn't say? You're all here. And there are quite a few others. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we will jump right in. As you can see, those of you who are watching online, you see the large binder that Dr. McGee and Mr. Massey both have. This is a tremendous amount of work that they're bringing to the table. It represents quite a commitment that they've made. So we thank you for that, and we're ready to start those questions from district staff. In section 1, in particular, mission, guiding principles, and purpose, we do not have any questions from the district. So we will move directly to section 2, target population and student body.
Okay, Dr. McGee will take care of this one.
Question regarding this in the back. Can I ask them that something?
Sure, go ahead. You can do both. Just make sure you tell me which one
Gotcha.
you're jumping.
No, it's just have to find it as the computer one. I know I saw it. Maybe they took it out. Okay. Good morning. My name is Vince Roshink with CTE. I'm a specialist here with the district. On the target population and student body question, I have regarding page 5 of the document you sent us, the Grow As We Go concept. Does this mean that there is a limited access to STEM at the Southeast Volusia School of Science and Technology? Which STEM program will be ready for students in year 1 to enroll?
Okay, which section can I ask again? On
Page 5,
Mm-hmm.
Grow As We Go.
Oh, okay. That is really referring to having limited grade levels. We're going to start with 7 and 8 in the middle school and 9 and 10 in the high school. That mainly was to get the culture of the school ready to start with, so that the leadership team can work with the staff and work with getting together our project-based teams and our STEM projects. You might want to talk a little bit more about that piece of it, though.
Sure, it's going to be based on student interest. Of course, the middle school, the curriculum is pretty much established for that. It does branch off once you get to high school, and that's going to depend upon what the student interest is. Many of the, I know the robotics and computer science with the manufacturing, production and propulsion, a lot of the standards overlap, and the certifications for the teachers also overlap. So being able to teach multiples would be pretty easy for those teachers. And then for the biomedical, it's a biology teacher, which you're going to need for high school as well. So being able to have the staff to be able to maybe have more preps at the beginning, but we plan to offer all 3 pathways.
Okay, thank you. So that's the only question under section 2, and if you don't mind, we can jump to sections 3 and 4.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and start so the transition is smoother, and then we'll get Mr. Milholland to follow after. And then if you don't mind, I'd also like to, since I'm up here, I have one other question in section 20 and 21 based on CTE, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so on the first question is on page 9, 10, and 11. You have tables with course progressions and also industry certifications regarding CTE.
Correct.
So can you explain the rationale for following the industry certifications for the MOS bundle, which is the Microsoft certification, QuickBooks, Illustrator, and Photoshop, and placing them in the entrepreneurship program?
Actually, the Microsoft Office will probably be completed in the 7th grade. That's when we actually have that. But it'll be a follow-up for those students that hadn't got to that point to maybe complete it. So not every student in 7th grade is going to be ready to finish that whole suite. So it'll be a time for them. So basically, the entrepreneur teachers, this course I used to teach, will have to differentiate within the classroom. They're going to have to figure out where each student is available at. So if a student's finished the MOS, well, they need something else. So maybe they move on to QuickBooks or those kind of things. So it's not basically for every single student. It's going to be based upon where that student is for that course.
So right now with the entrepreneurship program, I think when I was looking, there are 3 courses in that. Are you going to be placing a first level, like a DIT or something that they can do that MOS bundle in, or are you going to be placing that in one of those?
In 7th grade, it will be the DIT is when we actually have that course available to our students. If they haven't finished it, I would hope that we'd be able to have them do the entrepreneurship. I think it should be able to fit within that coursework for that certification, if I'm correct. I would have to switch to they may have to take that course over again if they didn't complete it at the other time.
QuickBooks definitely, I think, falls in that.
Fits in with the entrepreneurship, yes.
The DIT would probably be better for the MOS bundle. If you are offering, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
we are. 7th grade is when we'll be offering that course.
Yeah.
So we're hoping the kids coming in 7th grade will actually be able to complete that. But if they don't, again, we're going to have to tailor the curriculum to the needs of the student. As much as we like to outline everything, as you know, we have every student is different. We're going to have to kind of cater to what they're at and what they need.
Great, thanks, Dan.
Sure.
And right now in our current 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we do that bundle. So usually by 8th grade, they're finished.
Yeah, great, thank you. My second question is on page 14, it references PBL and Marzano training. And page 36, RTI training for entrepreneurship teacher. So my question is, where are these trainings and the costs associated for them in your budget?
So we're talking about the project-based learning,
Yes.
the cost. A couple things. One is that I have a passion for it, so I'll be leading some of the professional development on this. We've actually made a good partnership with the Space Foundation, who is also proficient in being able to teach this as well. And it's going to be a partnership, so the funds, it would be kind of they want to have their mission completed, and so they're willing to help us complete this. And if we're talking about Marzano, is that going to be for a different question for
Like
the Marzano?
professional development? No?
Yes, for professional development.
Okay, I can grab that.
Okay.
This was my class that I taught at the University of Central Florida. So I taught teachers and principals to teach and be a Marzano evaluator. So you're looking at the training right here. So I could take care of that
Got you.
for teachers.
Okay. Thank you. And then in reference for transition on section 20, I just have one question regarding your appendix XC. And it's on your budget and financial management. So for the CTE computers, you say, can you explain to me where you intend to buy a computer for $275, like a high-function machine? Because some of the programs that Dan had just mentioned might need a higher function computer.
Right. Should we ask Leif? Leif, do we have you want to come up here and
He
talk
is
about?
our genius when it comes to how do we get computers.
Okay, so basically we, and depending on what the board would like, at Burns we don't buy brand new computers right off the factory line. So, and we really customize the needs of the computer down to what the class is going to be about. So it really depends on who's offering what deals at what time and all that.
And I guess I can add here too. We do a lot of leases. Right now I have every student in K through 8th grade have a technology piece in their hand. I'm able to work through the Apple computer people and have mini iPads, and I only pay X amount of dollars per month, and after 3 years they belong to me. So there are a lot of deals and a lot of people we have met that have been doing a lot for us. We also have a lot of businesses that have actively put things for us that we are able to use either by a donation or by a lower cost.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Leif. And that's all the questions I have. I appreciate that. And I'm going to go ahead and call Mr. Milholland to complete this section. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Robert Milholland, and I am the curriculum specialist for secondary social studies and advanced programs, and I will be going through the other academic areas. The first question I have is, excuse me, you indicate the first year enrollment will be approximately 640 students, and that's on page 4 or page 11, depending on how you have it. Appendix XA on page 515 in the budget indicates a 5,000 function for academic programs, and it lists supplies and materials at about 96,000. This averages out to about $150 per student. How will you ensure there will be enough funding for the textbooks and classroom supplies in excess of that average? For example, a middle school civics textbook runs roughly about $64, $65. So that would leave, that'll take up almost half of that $158 average.
Right. What we want to do is, especially in middle school, is have our students be able to learn how to develop study skills and be able to help take proper notes. So it may be at the very beginning that we're talking about class sets of books and having the students learn how to take those notes and be able to then check out textbooks when they feel like they have the need. When we're working at Burns, it's kind of the same system that we have right now, and the teachers have been very successful in the students passing the end-of-course exams, especially for civics and some of the other courses. If we also use the software that's available, we'll also help students be able to use those kind of things at home if they have it available. And we plan on having after-school tutoring once a week by the teachers to be able to fill in the gaps for students that need a little bit more help with that subject area. So I know it's tight at the very beginning, but we've seen it work in the past, and we're hoping that it'll work again for our school.
Okay, so you'll have a print and a digital version available?
Correct. And we use a lot of hands-on resources too. I think a textbook is always meant to be a resource, and we have trained our teachers very well with a lot of programs that can be utilized that don't necessarily have to have that textbook in hand, although there will be a set of textbooks for each grade level, at their disposal, but it'll be online.
Okay, at least a class set.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then going back to those same kind of figures, on page 4 it indicates your second year enrollment for 11th grade will be approximately 175 students. And Appendix XB in function 5100 object 520, textbooks indicate about $4,600. If enrollment in grades 6 through 10 remains the same and no new textbooks are purchased for grades 6 through 10, and the 175 students have moved up from grade 10 to grade 11, that leaves you with about $26.71 average per student for textbooks in that new grade. So there's a dramatic drop in funding for textbooks moving from 10th grade to 11th grade.
Right, and I know that some of the teachers like to have their own curriculum that's developed and don't have a set textbook, I guess you could say, per se. I know that when I taught, I actually came up with took the state standards, kind of came up with my own modules, and then taught from that based on finding my own resource and up-to-date resources to be able to teach. It is very helpful, especially when you have the state standards that you want to meet and the textbooks already have that curriculum developed for you. But as you get into 11th and 12th grade, there's not any more state tests, and the teachers are going to have to then use other resources to be able to move students for 1 year of growth, especially with their software programs they'll be using within the classroom to help move students from where they start at to the end of the school year. So it's going to have to be different resources once they get to that 11th, 12th grade year.
And that's really the years that we start into our manufacturing building and a lot of the project-based and a lot of the hands-on, so the students themselves are finding and discovering and working out issues and problems.
Which is an EOC course. And then kind of using the same kind of context, the next year, The next year indicates a third-year enrollment for 6th grade, so brand new students coming in for 6th grade and 12th grade. So those new 6th graders coming in, and then those already established 11th graders moving out textbooks the previous year up to a much larger number.
Correct. Manufacturing, hands-on, STEM, and really do their courses. A lot of it also will be the soft skills that Mr. Hargrave talked about, so we have a whole course in that that he is putting together too. You might want to talk about that.
You talking about
The soft skills course.
Well, that's just going to be starting in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. It's personal development, and part of that is going to be doing the skills necessary to be successful in academics and also in careers and in life. So that curriculum is really going to help students have that one period every other day, since we're on an alternating block schedule, to help with those study skills and to make sure everything is in order for for whichever course they might be struggling within.
We feel there's enough money in there, and if not, we'll do it the same way we did at Burns. We run a fundraiser, we do donations. We have such great business partners behind us that all I have to do is go and say, hey, I need, and I usually got.
Yeah, the concern was in that first year, the amount in the budget for textbooks was relatively high, and then there was quite a decrease the second year, and then back up to a much higher level in the third year. On page 14, in section 3, you reference.
Okay, that's a good point that John's pointing out, that first year is planning year. We don't have any kids. So when you're looking at the first year, we're buying ahead of time. So we have no kids. That was a good point. And when you get to that real first year for when teachers come.
So you got $100,000
ahead of time.
For year one.
Yes.
Because the first number, the first column of planning year, there's no kids.
Right.
So we were going to try to get those textbooks.
And move ahead.
And then the $4,600 would be additional, but it would be still for the same year.
Okay.
So we're planning ahead. And so every year, we're buying books for the next year.
And if you're counting over columns, I don't know, maybe we got off a column here, but it's year 3 that it jumps from $46,000 up to $86,000.
And that's when 6th grade comes in.
So $86,000 was for that 6th grade and 12th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see that the money does correspond with the student increase.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like the $4,600 is more maintenance of what you've already.
Correct.
It's for year 1.
Okay. On page 14, section 3, you reference PBL quite a bit. And PBL is going to be an overarching learning model. What is your plan to train, implement, and continue to train your teachers? You had mentioned that you have taught PBL. Are you Buck Institute certified, or how does?
I'm not Buck Institute certified. I was part of the academies for 13 years at New Smyrna Beach High School. I was part of the process of creating the interdisciplinary units. I was a leader of one of the academies for the marketing, and also I added an entrepreneurship at one point. I also helped develop all 6 academies at New Smyrna Beach, and then I went to the assistant principal role in helping with the scheduling and the staffing and the hiring and the training of teachers on how to develop that model. To me, this is the next step in that process. It's kind of what I learned through the Ford Foundation when I went to Detroit, and they trained me on some of the techniques I would use and the curriculum that you would use to then be able to put all these things together. I've done these kind of events and stuff within my classroom when I did teach. I would like to take it where I can involve more classes or more areas of study versus I only was able to do maybe 2 at a time. I would love to be able to do full-fledged. So my whole passion from when I first started, from teaching biology to then moving into marketing, was being able to do interdisciplinary units and then making it as authentic as possible, making it as real world as possible. And through the help of bringing in businesses, it really makes it more authentic. And their program, I've read multiple books on this to further my understanding of how to put this all together. And it's a pretty simple process from where I had it to where it needs to go. It's just more structured, and putting those things into place, I feel like would just be a next logical step. And we've got some support from other organizations that will also help us implement this as well.
And I might add, we have a very good connection with Georgette Yakman, and she is the co-founder of STEAM. She has been down at our school for 2 summers in a row. This will be her 3rd year that she'll be with us. She has trained every one of my teachers in the STEAM process, which is project-based. And in order to get STEAM certified, the STEAM certification follows the teachers. And the teachers had to create their own lessons, project-based, including all subject areas and including the arts. So once those lessons were accepted, each of the teams then themselves got certified in STEAM. It's like the blended teachers. The certification follows the teachers. So every teacher down at Burns, I'm happy to say, is STEAM certified because all their lessons were approved and on Georgette Yakman's website now. So they've been in this project base. We have worked with this whole concept. And the school is a accredited STEM school already. So we've gone through the process a lot.
Okay. And on page 34, you indicate that American Sign Language will be the primary world language, and with the rationale of students and teachers' ability to communicate in loud environments. Do you anticipate instructing teachers in ASL in addition to the students? So not only the ASL teacher, but the other teachers as well.
I think that would be a great professional development by having the teacher actually teach some basic signing to everyone on campus. I don't think it's a skill that I think it's a skill that translates very well. I can't tell you how many parents have taught their infants how to sign and to be able to use that into real-world situations. So we're going to highly encourage it. We're not going to make it a requirement, but we're going to highly encourage other teachers to also pick up some sign language as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Eric Holland.
Hi, good morning. Eric Holland, I'm the Assistant Director for Digital Learning and Assessment. On page 38 in your Word document, you describe students who are on grade level or above to maintain 1 year's worth of growth. I was just looking for some clarification. Are you using learning gains for that calculation?
You're talking about like scale score and learning gains?
Okay. In the same section, you describe students below average as becoming on grade level the following year. Is it your goal to move students who enter your school at a level 1 or 2 to become a level 3 the following year?
We would really, what I find is that if you keep letting a student fall, if they don't make at least 1 year's worth of growth, they're going to get further and further behind as they go. So at some point, you're going to have to put in some pretty major interventions to really try to close that learning gap that those students have. Will it always happen? No, but is it our goal? Yes. I would love for our students to have a plan on 1, if not 2 years, be back on grade level, but it's going to take a plan for that student to reach those goals. We can't let them keep falling further and further behind.
Can I clarify that too? Mm-hmm. On the scale of 1 and 2, we realize that we just want to see continual growth too. So if they're at the bottom 1, we would like them to be at least the top 1 or move to a 2 in the real world. Yeah. So it's going to be eventually to get to that 3. So in 1 year to go from 1 to 3 is not a probable place. So this more or less is we want them to keep moving forward.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So in year 1, you'll have, particularly in high school, 9th and 10th grade students. But you may have students who are in grade level 9 or 10, but really should be in grade levels 11 and 12. So my question is, how are you going to help these students get back on track for graduation?
Well, since we're going to be having 8 credits a year, and if you do 8 times 4, it's 32 credits. So if they're already, we can almost get them 16 credits within a 2-year time frame, just like that. And if we actually look at an 18 credit option, it gets them very close to where they need to be with just within 2 years. We're hoping they come with like 2 or 3 credits when they come by their cohort of being able to graduate within that time. But by having 8 credits per year and maybe looking at that 18 credit option, that's kind of what our plan would be, to try to catch them up.
Okay. That's all I have.
Sure.
Next up is section 6, Ms. Kim Gilliland.
Hello there, I'm Kim Gilliland, Director of ESE and Student Services, and I actually do not have any questions in Section 6, but I do have questions in 2 other sections. They should be brief questions. The first one is on page 27 of Section 4. The application references screening for all students who determine to determine who will need additional supports. What screening measures will be used for this purpose?
What page was this on?
It is on page 27 of Section 4 under the RTI section.
Let's see. Is that the Word document page?
It's your application page number. Yes, so 27.
Okay, on screening, would you like to talk? I'm going to bring Tina Duncan up here, who is our educator for our ESE director.
Okay.
So it's on page 27, and which part is it on? Is it in the response intervention part?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then which part of that is this? Oh, okay, there it is. Instructions. Oh, that's, the screening is really just progress monitoring of students. I'm sorry, that's not the way that it should have been written. It should be more of, all students have progress monitoring to see if they're making gains and stuff like that. So it's more in reference to that than I would say a screen test. Does that kind of make more sense, or is that?
I understand what you're saying. I guess then what will you use for progress monitoring? Curriculum-based measurements or a specific program of some kind that will track student progress?
So for the all students screening, it's all state-approved diagnostic screenings. Like we use the iReady currently, and we used the FAIR previously. And then for RTI, for progress monitoring, we work with Volusia County Schools, and we monitor based off of decision trees that you guys currently have, and we follow those to make sure that the students get what they need.
Okay, and I think you may have just answered this question, but let me ask it in case you want to add anything too. My second question is, how will specific evidence-based interventions be selected? And a follow-up to that is, who will then be the provider of those interventions?
Okay, so as the ESE director, and I work with the ESE teacher, we work with all of our teachers for looking at the problem-solving team processes. And again, we use those decision trees, and if they are below the certain number, for example, this year's iReady, we follow up with what they need, and then the teachers use the progress monitoring tools, you know, the QPA, the DIBBLs, all those type of things, and we use it all the way through 8th grade currently.
Excellent, thank you. My next question is on page 39 of section 5, and this should be probably a just brief response, but under placement and progression, there is a reference to an ES plan. Can you please define what that is?
ES plan. Is that also another one? It's a gifted. Sorry. It's a gifted plan.
The gifted plan, the EP?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Those are all the questions that I have today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
For section 7, English language learners, and for section 8, school climate and discipline, the district has no questions at this time. Next is section 9, supplemental programming, and Ms. Caitlin Disler is coming forward.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Caitlin Disler, the coordinator for Learning Technologies. Dr. Katie Dyer is unable to be here this morning, but she did prepare some questions in her absence. So I am going to ask, if you don't mind, questions related to supplemental programming and then also to professional development, just to ease with transitions. So there's just one question under supplemental programming, and this is related to information that is on page 64 for the sports that are allocated in the timelines. We were hoping you could just please elaborate on the sports fees that are being collected, if these would be used to budget for fields or rental spaces for some of the sports that might require a facility, if that was something that was incorporated within the budget, and we weren't sure if that was included elsewhere in the application.
Now, what's in our budget is part of facilities, and that is that we're going to start with athletic fields.
Okay.
And that would be for these sports that we have shown here.
Okay, so for years 4 and 5, where there's mention of a potential swimming team, is that something that would maybe be built on at a later point in time or utilize another facility?
Well, or we will develop more facilities, you know, depending on, you know, obviously our budget, the enrollment, the interest in participating in those programs.
Thank you very much. I just have a few questions related to professional development for section 13. And these are not in reference to any specific page numbers, just general questions related to professional development. One question is, how will you introduce new teachers or late hires to the topics covered in the first 2 weeks of that professional learning that's occurring? So if a teacher comes later in the school year or the following year, how will you ensure those teachers have the same information that's necessary?
Depending upon when they come, we take new teachers very seriously, and what we would do is, first of all, offer a mentor. Everything we do has a team concept. So we do, like, even at my school, we do a K1 team, a 2-3 team. There's a leader for each team. So usually it's the team leader that takes that person right under their wing. They would spend some time with me or the principal at the very, very beginning in gearing them up to ethics, giving handbooks, doing all the general stuff. But we have also done Saturday workshops with our new teachers, depending upon how many. We have had them stay later. We have worked with them. And a lot of times I find even teachers that might have just came in that same year could use some of the same things that they need. I find technology especially, you know, so we would bring somebody in and we would do something for just them on a Wednesday when other people are doing team time, or you know, early dismissal. We'll either do department heads. Instead, that'll be time that they can spend with our ESE coordinator and get up to speed to whatever they need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just have one other question. Within your monthly plan for professional development, I know that there are some times that were to be determined for topics, and we were wondering if you had any idea now maybe on some topics that could be offered during that March, April, and May time frame towards the end of the school year.
I think we talked a lot about, and I'll let Dan talk a little bit on this too, but a lot of this will be project-based. So depending upon how fast the team grabs that concept, or how many speakers we have coming in to work on different topics. I mean, it was just last week that Space Foundation was here, and they have an amazing program, and we signed the MOU already, and we're excited about this. So next week we're planning all that, not only in my school but for the future high school. So we're excited about finding new things. So this just came up last week. This will be part of that to be determined. We'll bring them in and have them work with the staff, and we're not done finding more partners.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to resume with section 10 for governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Pollock, School District Council. Question on the articles and the incorporation in the bylaws, and I don't have pages on the bottom, but attachment H. On the, after you go to the H. Articles, it's 3 of 4.
The bylaws?
Yes,
no,
sir.
Attachment H.
In page 3 of 4 is how it's numbered. It's a
What's
few
the
more.
attachment?
Attachment H.
Okay.
That's your articles.
Okay.
And then it just looks like there's an amendment to Article 3, and that second line, it talks about the organization is organized exclusively. It has a couple different things. One of them is identified as religious. And then on the bylaws, which is attachment J, it has a purpose, and religion is not in there. Why the difference, and does the charter have any religious portion?
Because that was the canned language right from the IRS instructions.
Okay, so there's no planned religious.
No.
That was my question. Thank you.
Sections 11 and 12, management, staffing, and employment, has no questions. And we're moving on to section 14, no questions.
And by the way, if I can make just one follow-up, we do have a draft of the Form 1023 in there for the application for tax exemption.
Yes, sir.
And that and it goes on and shows that the tax exemption is going to be for a public charter school, which has to meet all of the state statutes and laws with respect to that public charter school.
Thank you, sir.
Section 15, community information, no questions. And section 16, we're up with facilities.
Where are we, section 16?
16.
Oh, okay, we need.
Come on, Taylor. Here, you have the microphone.
Why don't I let you sit here? Trade seats with you. There we go.
Good morning. Eric Kozelski of Planning Department.
Hi.
My questions have to do with the sections, I guess the 12th and 13th page of Addendum XC.
Okay.
Okay, now, where are you?
XC.
Attachment X.
XC. The 12th and 13th page of that.
We have an X.
No, I have them ABC here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's the construction budget.
There you go.
All right. Thank you.
And page where? The 12th page?
I think it was like the 12th and 13th page.
Tell me what it starts on.
Keep going. I'll tell you where. Keep going. Under the expenses.
Okay.
Maybe this next one. So,
Other facility costs on that page?
Yes.
there you go.
I was looking for a land purchase cost. In the section for facilities, you identified the area of 442 and Air Park Road, that around that area, as the location. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see in the other costs where you're
right. What you have
budgeting for a purchase.
This is a template provided by Florida Department of Education. So the applicant has to, if you look in the far left column under the gray where it says false, if the Inc. was going to build their building, then that would be where you put the budget with the land, the building, and soft costs, et cetera. Because we're doing it as a lease, in our lease rate, I've got the land, the building costs, the soft costs, and everything built in. So I had to go through that all last year. This is literally a hypothetical, not used section of the budget.
Okay.
So it's an either or in the template.
Okay. So then Haskell will be doing the design and build?
Yeah.
Yes, for me. So I'm the landlord. So I'll be the landlord for the school. And then I have engaged Haskell because last year Sarah Lee was concerned that the board had an experienced developer, or orchestration is probably a better word, and experienced designer and builder, so that the board wasn't heading down a road without expertise in school construction. They have development expertise in the area. So this year, we brought the team together to show you that we had the experience. Me and my resume is included, and then Haskell.
Right.
So yeah, Haskell will do the design and construction, and we've got 2 local civil engineers. We're kind of using both. Currently, Haskell has internal civil engineering as well on staff, but we're going to use a civil engineer of record locally, depending on which site we pick.
Okay.
So all those numbers are rolled up and translate to their lease costs, which is in the budget, annual lease costs.
Okay. And then I have more of a comment rather than a question, having to do with section 16.
Section 16.
The facilities.
Okay, sure.
Section. You estimate 55 square foot per student station for your construction.
On average, yes. Yes.
But it's a 600 square foot room. So really, when you're trying to put 20 something kids into a room, it's much less than a student station. You're talking about your overall.
Yes, sir. To clarify,
square footage.
Yes, sir. Building square footage overall, just as a test, when we take the program building and then divide it by the population,
okay,
we're comfortable within 55 to 60 square feet per student, but that would include a little cafeteria, the hallways, and everything. So the classroom size is sized just off the standard Burns classroom and average charter school classroom sizes, and those are 600 square feet. So obviously those are a lot less per student.
Right.
Inside that.
And that would, and the 5,000 foot technology building would be in addition to that.
Yes.
It's not included in that.
Right.
And that technology building is in phase 2, correct?
Correct.
So then you would be offering it at 11.
It's in the square footage of phase 2, right? 5,000 square feet. Yes,
right.
Well, it's in here. It's in year 1.
Right.
It's 47,000 square feet. If you subtract that, because it was 42,000 square feet for the space that they, the 55 to 60 square feet, and then we added 5,000 square feet to that to come up with the 47,000.
Right.
190 feet.
Right.
For year 1 and 2.
I'm always using year 1 as the planning year. I'm sorry.
Okay.
For first year of operations, it's just like he said.
Okay.
Because the column on the far left planning year.
Right. We should call it year 0. Oh well.
Yeah.
Except for everybody else.
The other question that I had to do with your $3.5 million in construction site costs.
Oh, that's probably in that gray area again.
Yeah, probably in your
gray area. Again, that's not applicable. Again, because of the false. If you don't put something in there, the template spits out incomplete. So that's where we estimate less than that in our phase 1 site costs for sure.
Well, my question had to do with your athletic facilities more than your cost, because are you planning on doing competition level facilities, including, if they were to
I can answer that.
play in a championship level?
And Ken's here from Haskell. He's an architect. The plan is to have a regulation mixed use, so regulation soccer, and that field will also have a softball incorporated into part of the outfield, but it'll have softball and soccer regulation, and then the flag football and other sports will use that multi-purpose field. We won't have a regulation football field because the school doesn't plan to have tackle football.
Okay, because that would eat up your entire cost there.
It would, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do a lot of multi-purpose fields that don't eat up the budget.
Okay. Those were my only questions.
Thank you.
Section 17, transportation, and Section 18, food service. Both have no questions. And we're up to Section 19, school safety and security.
All right, hi, I'm Craig Pender, Coordinator of Emergency Services and School Safety. After reviewing this year's and last year's, I did note that you did try to fix everything that I had questions about. I only have 2 questions for you. One, I think you pretty much will answer anyway. What are your plans to identify bullying and anonymous reporting? I know you put in Crime Stoppers, but you know we have the new thing. If you could just elaborate.
We do a lot in bullying, and my doctorate is in the study of bullying, so I do a lot of activities and workshops for our kids. We've done many GOLD programs, which are Girls Only Leadership Development, which we hit hard on that. Building relationships, we do a BOLD program for the boys. So our thing is education of what to look for, and a lot of times it's education of the adults, not so much as the kids, because the adults have to see it as an issue. So I say if you walk into a school as a teacher and you don't think it's not a big deal, boys will be boys, and if you think they're not big issues, you'll never see it. So you really have to educate the teachers and the staff to build those relationships with kids and notice a change of behavior. If you come to Burns, you will see I have a very open policy, door open, it's part of our culture. Kids will come and talk where we don't give them decisions as to what they can do. We lay out all the things. And of course, my last one is, I'll be glad to step in. And after we've talked about several different ways that they can not be involved in this, they kind of work out their own solution and they're able to handle it. But we always are right there to be able to step in ourselves. We also have a reporting system. We have bully boxes all over the school where anybody can drop anything in. We have a place in the office where they're able to drop in. They can also email anything, and we can be contacted at any time. So we do have ways for our kids to let us know that the problem's happening. The other thing is we educate our parents. A lot of times kids won't come forward, but I say if they said something to you, take it serious and let us know. And we're able to do it where we do not put that kid in harm's way, but we put ourselves where they're saying it's happening, when they're saying it's happening, who, what, where, and how. And we're able to see it ourselves or have a teacher see it themselves and step in without ever letting them know that we know that the child reported it. So.
And 2 other things. I think the district uses Fortify as a possibility. And our student information system, we use Jupiter, also has an anonymous bullying report system through that. So the kids are checking their grades. They can use that system to anonymously report something.
Okay. All right. The last question, I believe, maybe hopefully just an oversight, said that you mentioned having a guardian and that it's in the budget, but we didn't find the line number.
We have SRO.
Okay.
You will find that under the function 7800, object 310. If you look at the budget, you go down under 7800 to the line item professional and technical services. That line item is an SRO, and that number came from the contract that the school district has with Volusia County.
All right. Thank you. That's it.
For year 1, it's $57,705.
All right. All good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're on to section 20 and 21, budget and financial management.
All yours.
No. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Deb Muller, Chief Financial Officer. And I just have a couple of questions. In section 21, which is attachment X, you referred to the Schools of Hope RFP response and included that 100 per FTE for back office services.
However, when you look at that document, there's no date on that, but it does refer to software being available in 2017. So I can't confirm that that cost might be higher or lower, but where would the additional expense, if you were to go out for another RFP before you actually opened, where would that additional money come from?
Now, the money that, if it came in at higher than $100 per student,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you look at the budget, obviously, at the end of year one,
Mm-hmm.
There was not a lot of surplus in the way that we budgeted. However, that was only utilizing $300,000 of two startup loan commitments of $500,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was the case, we would go in and make an evaluation based upon the situation at the time. For example, we don't know what the FEFP is going to be for August of 2020 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The governor's talked about increasing it for August of 19. We don't know how much they're going to approve. It, depending on what that number is, it could, make a big impact on that first year surplus. So it's a wait and see until we see what the legislature does. And then once we know that, then we can adjust the amount that we draw on that startup loan, which we have an additional $700,000 that we can draw on. But we feel at this time we're in communication with Building Hope on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
They have not indicated that that number is going to change at this point.
Okay, thank you. The only other question I have is just a note that on page 565, your insurance coverage does not state that your business automobile policy would have a deductible of no more than $1,000, so you would need to bring that into compliance.
Whatever the requirements are, we intend to meet the district policy as well as any state regulations with respect to those insurance policies.
Okay.
And I could say I was already at 10 pages for FF, so I couldn't add the whole policy in there. So I just added parts of the things that I thought were important.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Dad, I don't know that we asked the one on the top, page 98. I don't think Caitlin did that one.
You don't think she did?
I don't think she did.
Oh, okay. Sorry, there's a CTE question in Appendix XC.
Actually, it was page 98, the beginning teacher salary.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just checking.
What's that?
That's okay. We were just confused.
Okay.
Okay, and in section 22 for the startup plan, there are no questions in this section.
This is pretty easy.
So that concludes our district questions. However, I would like to open it up to district staff. Are there any additional follow-up questions resulting from the questions and answers that we heard? Okay, hearing none, we are wrapped up as far as the questioning portion. Does the application team have any questions for the district at this point?
I guess the only thing, they're going to put this on a week ahead of time so that we can prepare for
Correct.
anything
Correct.
when it goes before the board. Mm-hmm.
Now, will the superintendent make his recommendation prior to the board meeting?
That'll be that week
Correct.
ahead.
So that'll be
when the agenda goes live. When the agenda goes live, you'll be able to see what the recommendation is.
okay. And also, I heard you tell the last applicant that the meeting starts in the morning.
It does.
Because I was under the impression it was like 3:30 in the afternoon or something.
No, we are starting at 8:30 on that day. We will get with you on the exact time for you to come, so you don't have to come and wait.
Awesome.
It's our intention to try to streamline that process so that we're not there until the middle of the night. And so that's why we're trying something different this time, to start early and hopefully not be so late in the evening.
Will the agenda be in its normal format?
Yes, the normal school board format. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And there will be other school board business that has to occur on that date as well. So it'll be woven into that meeting, but it will start at 8:30 in the morning.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good process.
And district staff, we are adjourned until 1:45. Our last applicant will be coming in for their interview with us at 2 p.m. So enjoy a little bit of free time and get some lunch, and we'll see you back at 1:45. Thank you.